Welcome, Virgo, to your Mars in Aries 6 week forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. From April the 9th through till May the 18th, Mars, the planet of passion and desire, is moving through Aries. This for you is house 8. I'm going to share your event chart, Virgo, from a purely Virgoan viewpoint. As Mars arrives, the other planetary positions do inform what you can expect over the next weeks. But I'll then go through all the aspects that Mars forges to. By the end of the video, you'll have a clearer understanding of what you can expect in terms of energy, work, relationships, and finances. So on the screen is your event chart, and there's Mars at 0 degrees Aries, the vernal point. So a critical point in astrology because it's the start of the whole zodiacal story. Mars rules the sign of Aries, so it's very much to do with thrust and initiation. But the eighth house is complex and also has an echo of the other zodiac sign that Mars rules of Scorpio, of transformation and deep desire. So Mars initially meets up with the dreamy, drifting energy of Neptune. And that's a very powerful influence which peaks on the 13th. But just before I get into that, we need to be mindful that Mars has been moving through your sector of relating from the 2nd of March. And Mercury, your ruler, ironically emerges from its post-retrograde shadow on the 9th of April too. So that's good news. But just before Mars left Pisces, it forged a stunning alliance to Uranus, the planet of innovation. If you have been encountering some frustrations over a relationship matter, the chances are that link between Mars and Uranus could have given you the desire to either break free or you may have had a breakthrough. I think it depends on your unique situation. Also, just to say, as Mars moves into Aries, we have a quarter moon. So the sun in Aries in a right angle with the moon in Capricorn. Now, that provides a backdrop for the next week. So the first week of Mars being in that deep transformational eighth house. And if there is a relationship, particularly a romantic relationship, that has felt very heavy, lots of tension, leveraging, power plays going on, that could still show itself through this first week. But also, on the other side of the heavens, the sun is in a square with Jupiter. And that's potentially quite a bubbly aspect. But the danger there, the sun in the eighth house can be about long-term finances, can be about investment and entrepreneurship. The 11th house can be friendship, but also your long-term future. If you are talking about collaborating closely with someone, I think it's important to just choke off the optimism and really get to grips with the realism. Something you have a talent for, but do stay grounded because that square can make us think that anything is possible. The sun essentially is in a T-square with Jupiter and the moon. So it's very important on this event chart because Jupiter opposite the moon is a lovely influence, despite the moon being detrimented in Capricorn. For you, that could give you a real sense of keep on going, particularly if it is someone you're really drawn to romantically. But the eighth house is asking you to decipher what the true motivations are, yours and also theirs. But Mars in that conjunction with Neptune is intriguing. If you are someone who likes mystery and you're drawn to someone at the moment who has some kind of outer-worldly energy, you may find them quite hard to resist. That combination becomes exact on the 13th of April. But just remember that Neptune in a conjunction with Mars can trick us around what we desire. So whether it's a big ticket item, the eighth house can be a more expensive item that we're drawn to, mesmerized by Neptune. I think one of the questions you could ask yourself is, does it have any functional value to you? So if you're drawn to something that is much more, very desirable and lovely, but is it mainly because there's something about it that has a bit of luxury, I think having that functional value is something to guide you. But as Mars moves forwards, by the 16th, it comes into a stunning link with Pluto. If you have been working on, in some ways, rejigging the practical side of your situation, maybe even trying to squeeze more from your assets, the energy that these two can create together is awesome and fantastic willpower. So if you have got a business idea that you think is very good, that's going to give you a lot of spark, Aries, and the ability to think cleanly, the position of Pluto in Aquarius, to make some significant changes that can be very helpful to you. But as Mars moves on, it comes into a conjunction with Saturn on the 19th, the two malefics. If there is a very close alliance that's been struggling along, it could show up. That could be a critical date, but it can also be a date when you're determined to fight for what you're invested in. And that might be a business idea you have. Just to say that I don't feel that relationships as a whole are afflicted by this event because Venus, the relator in your sister Earth sign of Taurus, which it rules, in a delicious link with Jupiter. And there may be someone that you're finding more and more comfortable to be with in your friendship circle. And maybe it isn't romantic at the moment, but that person can perhaps give you some very genuine advice. They may be very generous with their time as well. But then Mars moves forwards and comes into a conjunction with Chiron. If you have got issues about intimacy, you do find it difficult, more challenging to be up close and personal to someone. Mars's connection with Chiron gives you an opportunity to think about that and perhaps seek out some support. Mars in the eighth house can be about instant gratification. You get the desire of Mars, but the eighth house is much more of that scorpionic vibe of being very close. But the eighth house can also be where we like to test ourselves out, go through a series of challenges, which helps us to transform ourselves. So even if a relationship is a little bit bumpy, if you feel that there is enough in it to keep moving forwards, don't give up. The eighth house is not about quitting, it's about evolving. And if you can evolve, it could be in a positive way, but it's also about devotion. And if you are devoting your time and energy to anything where you're not really feeling that's being met in a similar way, it could be a time to release what's no longer serving your greater good. So whether that is some lifestyle choices, because the eighth house can be about addiction, I feel, and Mars very much about what we lust for. So whether it is a relationship that's maybe more sexually orientated, it is a business idea which is more about making money quickly, whether it is about evolving from something that isn't quite right for you. By the time that Mars does move at the start of May into a right angle with Jupiter, maybe that's going to be the time when you do find yourself letting go of something that you've tried very hard to work out. I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances. But just to say, Virgo, if you've yet to watch your April monthly forecast, please see that on the screen. Your Libra full moon on the screen. You can order your personal horoscopes. We've reduced the price. You can now get three for the price of one. We're realizing that people are feeling the pinch out there. They're great value, very accurate, totally unique to each person. Please see the link below. If you'd like to talk to me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials. And if you'd like your personal daily horoscope fired to your device each morning for your celestial pit stop, you can sign up for that below. So to summarize, I think this could be a complex time for relationships. Maybe you could find yourself really drawn to someone in a way which is very hard to understand. And that can be quite a test, but it can also be a time when you can transform yourself in a positive way. But it's important to understand that Mars in Aries is about fire. It is about perhaps at times being impatient, and it is about trying to come up against the challenge that we can transform ourselves through. So whatever you're drawn to over this next 6 weeks, it's going to be powerful, but it could see you emerge with your finances better aligned, or in a devoted relationship where you've come through perhaps a little bit of a battle of will. But if there is or are things that you're rather connected to, or perhaps in some ways finding it very difficult to release, then this could be a time to really think about finding a way to break free. And Venus and Uranus can definitely help you. So, to summarize, as far as your professional situation is concerned, if you're doing things that are different and fresh, I think that looks encouraging. Romantically, friendship and understanding each other is definitely something to savor. You may find someone very addictive at the moment and very hard to avoid. Financially, if you're savvy, this can be a time of financial improvement. All the best, Virgo, and goodbye.